There's now no doubt in anyone's mind, even the mainstream media has admitted it at this point, that there's a problem with the MCU. When you look at the last half of Phase 4 at the box office, when you look at the beginning of Phase 5, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, total and complete flop and failure. Didn't even hit $500 million when $600 million was its break-even point. But everybody assumed that Guardians of the Galaxy 3, that's going to be okay, right? That's going to be different. That's not going to fall into the same thing. It might not hit $1 billion, but it's still going to do really well. Well, we've started to see the box office results, the box office predictions, I should say, come in, and it's not very good. We saw the initial ones were between 120 and 155 million weeks ago. And as we get closer to the date, it's just gone down. And now you have the trades predicting a $120 million opening weekend for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Some of them, like Deadline, are even going less. 110 million projected. And when we look at Box Office Pro, the highs and the lows from what they have projected, 110 to 130, which continues to go down week after week as they get closer to the release date. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 at this point in time, it looks like it will be lucky to surpass the opening weekend for Guardians of the Galaxy 2 all the way back from 2017. And if that's the case, and if it tracks the same way we've seen with the MCU, bad fall-offs on the second weekend, like we've seen all of Phase 4, this is a movie that might not make its money back. And with a $250 million budget, that might be a tall task. But what is going on, Jeremy? Did you expect this to happen with Guardians?
I did not. So, as you know, I've been predicting that I thought Guardians would make $800 million around there, or $850 million. And this is after I got the wake up call, after I predicted that Thor: Love and Thunder was going to make $1 billion, because not that I thought the movie was going to be good, but I was like, it's coming off Ragnarok, which did really well, even though it had some criticisms. That was the type of kind of MCU film that people seem to be responding to. I didn't understand quite how bad the Marvel Cinematic Universe had been hurt up to that point. So Ragnarok came out. What did it do? 650?
Love and Thunder was 750 overall.
Yeah, Love and Thunder is what I mean. Love and
Thunder.
That
had a $146 million opening. Right?
Yeah,
so
massive
similar to what
opening.
Guardians had back in 2017.
And so that actually shows you that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is in serious trouble. Now, what I've been saying up to this point is we've seen Ant-Man, we've seen Eternals, we've seen Wakanda Forever, we've seen all of these films underperforming. But what I've been pointing to was Guardians. Guardians is a franchise that I think still has a lot of goodwill with a lot of fans. I personally loved both the first and the second. I think the first was widely loved by everybody. The second one, not so much, but still, I think that generally speaking, people like that universe. Chris Pratt's leading it. So going into Guardians 3, what I've been saying is if this movie underperforms, this is going to be the biggest statement we have had to date that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is no longer in a good place officially. If Guardians doesn't do something, this is bad for them. And then what's the next film after Guardians? The Marvels.
The Marvels.
Holy shit. If Guardians underperforms, the Marvels is in big fucking trouble. So the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's no arguing it anymore. There's no debating it. We have been telling you the MCU is in trouble, and now it looks like even Guardians being underperforming based on the early numbers we're getting back. This is a big problem for the MCU. And dude, I just recently watched Infinity War and Endgame again, bro, especially Infinity War. Those movies are so fucking good. And to see how far Marvel has fallen in just a few years due to identity politics and social justice pandering is unbelievable. I don't think Guardians is going to suffer from any of those problems, but I think Guardians is going to be penalized for the overall problem with the MCU.
When you look at all these comparisons, right? Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, 2017, made $870 million worldwide. Keep in mind, 100 million was from China. This Guardians movie is likely not going to do anything like that. We're seeing more like $30 or $40 million totals from the MCU in China now that they've reopened it, because there's so much other Chinese box office competition. But also, when you look, not only did it have a $146 million opening weekend, it only had a 55% drop. When's the last time a Marvel movie had that kind of drop? It's been years since something like that. What we are seeing is 64, 66, 67, 70% drops for all these Phase 4 and Phase 5 things. So that's kind of what you have to assume this would do as well. So I think that it's not going to get 120. I think it's probably going to get closer to like 135, 140 million, maybe still be just less than this, but they'll kind of parade it out as, look, it overperformed. Like they'll try to spin it any way they can, like they do with all of these things. But the reality is, even if it goes over this number, even if it goes over Guardians 2, just like we saw with Thor Love and Thunder, it's not going to have the same tracking. It's just the energy isn't there. And when you look at pre-ticket sales and things like that, it's less than half of what Multiverse of Madness was in the same given time. They had like $28 million in pre-sale tickets of people that got their tickets before, at the same time where Multiverse of Madness had about 60 million. That's a movie that opened up to like $190 million domestically. There's a lot of things that could go very wrong. It could actually be less than what's being projected. We'll see. But right now, I think the MCU, for something they thought they could bank on, they have to be very, very worried about the tepid projections that are out there for Guardians of the Galaxy 3.